This week on the flip side is Jason Caine with Jason Krogh and Scott Center. Ain't no Kurt Harlow here. It's a Blue Oaks Takeover. Cheers, boys.
Come on, let's go.
Welcome to the flip side. This is episode 33. My name is Jason Caine. I'm definitely not Kurt Harlow. And I'm here with my two friends, Jason Krogh, Scott Center. It's a Blue Oaks Takeover.
Yeah.
Welcome to the flip side, gentlemen.
Glad to be here, man.
It's a privilege. I wish I could say it was an honor to be with you boys, but it is a privilege to be here.
Oh, no, it's an honor. The honor is all mine.
No, I liked what he said. I like the privilege part. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Jason has super radio man voice over here, so
I
we're going to
know,
be sounding
he
like we're
does.
talking like chipmunks the whole time.
What are you talking about,
You
man?
just got these nice pipes, man.
He's got that low
My dad-
WKRB Cincinnati.
Exactly.
my dad always said,
Cincinnati.
"Hey, my dad always said I had a face for radio, man." So that's what I do.
Yeah, let's not talk about
do
your
it.
face.
Let's do it.
Anyway, so we're in a series right now coming out of Easter, and it's all about hope. For the last couple weeks on the flip side, they've been working with people from from Thrive in different areas. But welcome back to talk about the series that we've been doing here at Bayside Blue Oaks, and that series is all about hope. Scott, if you had to define hope, how would you define it, man?
Hope is that your present.
Time out. Remember, I'm a guest announcer, so I forgot something.
We
can't
need
get the flip
coffee.
side
That's what I
without
was gonna say, man. We need coffee.
I'm
Man, you
waiting.
about to go deep on us? She's standing
She
over there.
told me we were going to get some, and I was waiting
Yes.
patiently.
So Haley, tell us what we're working with the coffee today.
Today we have a Brazil from Temple Coffee and the flavor
Nice.
notes of melon, orange zest, and honey. We knew Kurt wasn't here, so we stayed away from anything in Africa and stuck with South America.
Okay.
So what you'll get are a little bit chocolatier flavor notes.
I like that.
Well, the show's gonna be a whole lot more chocolate today.
This will be a little
Oh.
brighter since it's
For
melon.
more than one
I
reason.
do like a little vanilla.
You see
too.
the host.
Enjoy.
Anyway, hey, y'all are flip side first timers. Want to tell y'all welcome to the show. Glad y'all are here.
Hey, cheers.
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 I got my Calvary mug. I'm really happy right now. It's beautiful.
Wow.
Kind of
Chocolatey.
starts out with an aftertaste. It's good.
starts with an aftertaste. Tastes like a burnt breath.
Powerful, man. This is good.
Yeah, we won't
Good
be-
time of the day, man.
Anywho, guys, so we're talking about hope this week. And before we get started, man, how would you define hope if you had to give it a definition?
I would give it the definition that hope is, real hope is that your present reality is not your only reality.
There you go.
Yeah.
Man, that is profound. I think the key about hope is just knowing that where you are right now, you won't always be.
Right.
And in our passage today, there was a guy who we talked about this week from John chapter 5. It was a man who had been had been an invalid for 38 years in the same condition. He couldn't get around, couldn't do anything for himself. In his society, he was kind of put off to the side, and he lived basically at a place called the Pool by Bethesda every day, day after day. That's where he was, around other lame, blind folks who had all sorts of issues. And for 38 years, he was stuck in this one position. And I think that if anything is hopeless, it's definitely in times in your life when you feel like you're stuck.
Absolutely.
Have you had any moments like that in your own life?
Yeah, I mean, one specific moment would be in my 30s, and it would be with Kelly and I, and it would be our marriage. We got stuck. And I'm literally in a place where we were not connecting at any level. We were just going through the motions of, taking care of kids, doing our job. And I'm pastoring at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm teaching marriage stuff and all this, but we got stuck. And I'll never forget, we were at Applebee's, of all places.
Nice,
Talk about
bro.
being stuck, a terrible place. Not the nicest place to go to dinner.
They don't sponsor this show, brother.
Okay, all right.
You know what I'm saying? It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, all right. But anyway,
Sponsorship gone.
yeah, we were sitting at Applebee's and we were looking at each other just like this across the table, but our look was like, what are we doing here? What's going on? There's no communication. There was nothing. And I remember that conversation went like this. Kelly goes, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And so we had a big conversation that night. Okay, well, we either got to fix this or it's going to go south real fast. And so we actually started talking about, okay, here's the steps that we got to take to get us unstuck.
Yeah.
Or else this is going to go one way. Because I think when you're stuck, I think if you don't have a plan, you're going to stay there. And if you know when you're plateaued only goes one direction. I don't believe that you plateau. I believe that eventually you'll go south if you don't have a plan to get out of it.
Yeah.
And so we sat that night and had a conversation and said, we got to have a plan.
Yeah, yeah. For y'all, it sounds like there was a point where the pain was just so high that you had to do something, or else it was going to be the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, a lot of my, I counsel people if people are in stuck positions, is if you're not happy with your present position, then blow it up. Blow the present position up so that you only have one or two choices. That either you're going to fix it or it's going to go south.
Yeah.
Because in the present position, that's not good. You're living in misery. So if you don't like it, then blow it up. Do something about it.
Yeah, man. I think that takes a lot of courage to blow it up, right? Because it's going to make you change. And I think a lot of times we stay stuck in the same position because it's out of self-preservation. Like, I'm going to be fine if I just stay right here. If I don't make any changes, I can just deal with this, but it's the fear of the unknown. So kudos to y'all.
Part of what makes you stuck too is it's arrogance, man. It's it's selfishness. It's to be unstuck requires humility. You know what I mean? It takes humility. You got to humble yourself and go, man, this is not going my way. It's not what I was tracking. I thought I was going to be at this point in my life, and this sucks. It's not going well. And then it takes, I don't know, it takes an eye-opening, I call it the smelling salt, a little break of the salt to kind of wake up and go, wait a minute, this isn't maybe working on my way, my plans. And I got to be humble enough to find something else or someone else, right, that can guide me and to blow it up, if you will. But most of us don't have.
Right.
What is that? What is that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a humility that has to take place, too.
Yeah. A little quick background on Jason. I know you know him, Scott, but the people out there may not know Jason. Jason has an interesting story of how he came into the church world. Scott and I, we've been doing this work since we were in diapers, basically.
Long time.
But
Me
Jason,
longer than you.
Yeah, for sure. But Jason, on the other hand,
Cloth diapers back in the day.
With the safety pins.
Safety
And
pins,
you washed
dude.
them.
I have
You had
no
to
idea.
I wonder
rewash
how
them.
that poop got out of the,
okay,
washing
man.
machine.
Hey,
I'm sorry. I'm supposed to say that.
Bring it back in. They're not gonna let us come back. What are
Come
y'all-
on, bro.
The conversation went south
I'm
real
sorry.
quick.
I'm sorry.
Come on, brother.
Back to what I was saying to Jason was Jason comes from the corporate world. He actually had a real job.
Right,
Unlike us
right.
pastors. You worked in the corporate world, man. How do you
Yeah.
see this play out? Or for the guy who is in his career, has worked to a certain point, and he's in a position where he has what he wants, but there's no fulfillment. What do you say to that guy?
Man, that's a great question, bro. For me, it was the grind of doing what probably most anybody maybe who's even listening right now of going or watching this and going, I've made my own goals. This is what I want to go. This is what I want to become, and I had hit that at 30 when I had those goals to be at 40, and I hit them 10 years prior. So I'm like, all right, I've hit this. I'm traveling all over the world. I'm flying on Gulfstream jets, man. I'm doing yachts. I'm doing my thing. And wait a minute, this can't be it. Is this it, man? And so there's a point there where you kind of go, there has to be purpose infused in that work that you do. Let's be honest, man. When we're working, we're grinding more time away from our families and our friends than any other time. So where are you spending that time? But more importantly for me was who am I spending it with? Like who's my posse, man? Who am I hanging out with? Who are my mentors? Who are the right people? And I had some great mentors. They're great mentors today. The guys that were in my corporate world gave me great opportunities. But then when it became, time, it was my time to make a decision. What is this group that I'm with? Is this really what's fueling me, the direction I want to become and where I want to go? And for me, I had hit all those markers so early that I started to spiral and just kind of lost it. I was married and had 3 kids, and my wife and I were pretty much about to get a divorce. And there was no God, there was no nothing in my life there other than, honestly, power was God and money. And it wasn't really ever the money, but the money had more influence than anything, and that's what I was hungering after. And hanging out with guys who are not, and we call it the M Club, but the B Club. These guys are billionaires.
Oh,
and
I don't even know those letters.
That
Club, the Messiah
man.
Club, and the Believer Club. I told you I've been in
Not the
church my
Believer
whole
Club.
life. The Billionaire Club.
man.
Yeah, I don't know those dudes.
Not that I was ever in that level, but I was in that clique, man.
When you said B Club, I thought it was like
Believers,
the
the
second
Bible
level
Club.
type of
bro.
person.
Yeah, billionaire. I'm way
Like
too
me,
spiritual.
man.
Yeah, I was listening. Man, there was something something critical you said. You said your life wasn't infused with purpose. Man, how key is that? That I think when we do get stuck, it is oftentimes because there's a lack of purpose in our lives.
Almost always, bro.
Always, right? When you're just living, making the widgets, getting the money, but there's no purpose, your relationships are suffering. That is certainly when you feel stuck. And those moments can certainly make you feel hopeless. That's where our guys in our text, it wasn't that he was stuck because of success, but because of the difficulty that he had in his life. And here's the thing about reading the stories of the Bible. Although the characters' issues may be different than ours, the way that they are able to get out of what they're going through is we can take the lessons there.
Yeah, Jason, in that story, Jesus actually asked the guy, do you want to get well? And I always thought that was a fascinating question, because some people get into the stuck phase where they're at, whatever it is, and then they just settle, and it becomes something that they know. So instead of, like you talked about earlier, facing the fear of the unknown and getting unstuck, they settle for what they're in, the rut, because it's what they know.
Yeah.
And that's why that question to that guy was, do you want to get well? Well, maybe he didn't. Maybe he just kind of accepted the life that he had. I don't know. It was a really interesting question that Jesus approached him with.
Just curious, how do you see that play out in today's world? How do you see people stay stuck in a rut or not want to get well or just be content with where they are?
Yeah, the low-hanging fruit is the marriage one. I mean, because people can go, okay, well, we are in a rut. Kelly, let's go back to Kelly and I. I'll just take it personally. We're in a rut. We're not connecting, but we're existing. We got a job, got a house, we got kids, and we can distract ourselves with other things. Like I'll get involved in my kids' sports. I'll get involved in my own hobbies. I'll sink my life into my job, and we'll just kind of exist together because it's what we know.
Yeah.
Or again, you go back to blowing up and go, no, we need to connect on a romantic level. And I think sometimes that happens in people's marriages is they get into this, they go, well, this is just what it is. So I guess I'm just going to have to learn to live with it. And I don't think that we should do that.
Yeah. That reminds me of something that I said during the message this week, that we take something that was meant to be a chapter in our life and turn it into the story of our life.
That was good. That was really good.
We just take these little small areas. For you with your marriage and how things were difficult, you guys could have made up your mind and just said, you know what, this is going to be the story of our life, that we're just going to exist together, that we'll just be together as roommates, but we really won't do anything purposeful in our lives or meaningful. Yeah. How have you seen that, or have you seen that at all, Jason, where people take something that was just supposed to be a chapter, a little hiccup in their story, and turn it into their whole story? Or how have you seen that become a hopeless thing?
Man, it was such a good point, man, when you were preaching that. And I just think, I don't know, there's something about even this day and age we live in, it's so instantaneous. Everybody wants things so fast, man. Everything is so blazing fast. And even when I'm talking to my own kids about, I'm trying to do a better job, for example, as a dad, to actually communicate by actually calling my kids and not texting them, because it's simple things like that. But things are going so fast, and what my fear is that people, they get into a little season and they go, "This is my whole life, man. This is it. This is," and if they don't get the instant gratification and satisfying response, then they just go, "Well, I'm screwed. This is my life, and it's over." So I don't know if I have a good response to that, other than I've seen it enough in around my life, man. And but again, a lot of it for me has been, what's my belief system? What am I? Where am I putting my life into and pouring my life into? And usually, if it's not God, if God's not in the picture, it's always going to be your mentors and people around you and your business and in Hollywood, and get into all that stuff too of even our younger generation of people being influenced, man, by how these people are living their lives on Instagram and Facebook, and how glorious and beautiful it is. And if it doesn't go that way, that they're judged that way.
Right.
But I don't know. I think to me, it's like, for me, it was a radical. I always kind of believed God existed. I didn't ever believe that we evolved from pond scum. I'm like, there's no way. If you look at who we are. But I was like, what do I need with God? I'm killing it, man. I don't need this God thing. And so for me, it was going down a path of made a lot of mistakes, made a lot of money, doing really well. Ended up committing adultery in my marriage. And just, I was a good guy, but I was so caught up in who I was trying to please everyone around me. But I just didn't have that person or that guidance, and I didn't know what to do. But then I had a bunch of fear, right? I'd had a bunch of fear of going, this is all I know, but I love my wife and my kids, but what do I do here, and how do I overcome this? So I don't know. Everybody has their journey, but I just think we at some point, and I wish, and I'm hoping some corporate guys are watching this right now, of going, you might, whatever your belief is in your faith, that it's not about religion, man. It's a relationship, and God is real. And I got so many stories about how not only God is real, but He's alive. And so much so that it may be, I put all my faith in Him, and it may be, I flipped and threw away 18 years of corporate to become a pastor. And I ain't looking back.
Hey, man, that's how
glad
your
you
life
did,
became
man.
infused
I'm
with
glad
purpose.
you
I don't know if I
did.
answered the question well, but
you definitely did. You certainly did. You certainly did. And we're going to get to that in this next part of the story. So this man is lame for 38 years. And then one day we're told that Jesus comes walking by on his way to Jerusalem to a Jewish festival. And he stops by the very pool where there are people who are hurting, who have all sorts of hang-ups, who would have been the outcasts of society. And Jesus intentionally goes to that place to have an encounter with this man. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about, Jason. You even said on here on the microphone, and people may have been shocked by that you said, hey, I committed adultery. Yeah. But it was in that very place where you met God. Yeah. And the point is this, that when you get stuck in life, don't miss Jesus when He comes by. Yeah. So Jesus comes to this man. He says, do you want to be made well, as you already alluded to? And the man says, I have nobody to put me in the pool. So Jesus is right in front of him, and He says, I have nobody to put me in the pool. That is, when you read that in the passage, if you're familiar with it, you just read right by it. But then you think about it, this dude had Jesus in front of him and says, I got nobody to put me in the pool. I think sometimes for me, I miss Jesus in my own life when He's right in front of me, when the change can take place, and when He's offering me a better life. Scott, when is the time in your life when you miss Jesus?
I have a story to tell, but actually I want to switch that question back to you. When have you missed Jesus?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's very recent in my life coming to California. I actually shared a journal entry during this portion of the message. Not that I journal all the time, but I just happened to have a journal entry of just this level of frustration that I was feeling at my job at the time because I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I felt underutilized. And what was so funny is a month before I wrote that journal entry, I had declined the opportunity to come out here to Bayside. Yeah. So the opportunity God was giving me, I was like, nah to that, because it wasn't how I thought it was going to come. I thought I was going to stay in Atlanta the rest of my life, be with my family and friends. And I clearly missed the very thing that God was giving to me. Yeah. But the great thing is that God is so patient with us that even when you do miss Him, oftentimes He'll bring the opportunity back because He knows that He's dealing with people who can miss Him at times.
I love that point that you brought out Sunday, that even if we miss Him, God cares about us to circle back again. Yep. He keeps working plan A out in our life. He keeps us going back to plan A. And I loved how you brought that out this last Sunday. That was good.
Yeah, and the point that I want to make to those who are listening is, if you are at a point in your life where you feel like, man, there's no way I can be used by God. I already missed my opportunity, or I already said no to something and went down another track. Man, God is the one who can recycle and redeem anything.
Let me just say something here. I have learned this, and I will go to the grave with this. Where you and I see a failure, God sees a foundation. Period. Where we see a flaw or something in our lives where we go, there's no way God can use me. And obviously, we probably don't talk about Satan as much as we should in church. I don't know. We talk about it here at Bayside when we have our series, but nothing could be further than the truth, right? Of going, where we see a flaw and a failure, God can absolutely use it as a foundation to start something new and fresh, and you can be absolutely used. I mean, for me to flip and go in the corporate world 7 years ago now, I've been a pastor, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was going totally blind, but I felt the call to come in. And you go, look at how a guy like me, who was this corporate jet setter dude, committed, adultery, had an affair, was hiding these secrets from my wife and my friends and everybody else. I thought for sure, even when I found God, I'm like, what's He going to do with me, man?
Wow.
Like, what's He going to do with me? Well, what's he going to do? I'm an idiot. I've made all these mistakes. I didn't grow up going to church. Stand up, sit down. What do I do? What am I supposed to be doing here?
Yeah.
And then to finally understand the grace that's involved in that, and then to go through, years of serving at the church and being baptized and go all in, and there's a process. It takes time, man. Understanding the power of being in a Bible study, like a men's study. I'm like, I don't want to be around a bunch of Bible thumping geeks, man. It's like, what's the deal with this? But the power of that, of just, better together and all these things. And anyway, all that to say is to go all that journey for me to say yes to God, go on the journey. Now, we launched this Blue Oaks campus 4 years ago. And we had 3,000 people on the weekends, man. And I go, and that's not to do this thing, but it's to go, don't let the fear grip you, man. Yeah. God can use it as a foundation.
Man, that is so good. That the things that we see as flaws, the places we think we can't be used, are the very things that God uses as a foundation for our testimony. I mean, there are guys that you can relate to at our church that would never relate to me or Scott because of your past.
And it happens all the time.
Let's chill.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, let me tell you, the guys can't stand y'all. No.
Let me tell you something. The guys call me because I'm a man.
Yeah. But that is true. There's certain parts of your story that they can resonate with, and that's the very thing that God uses.
It's true.
And this guy's making every excuse in the world why he can't be healed. And counseling, we have this saying that there are clients, they're yes but clients. That whatever you recommend to them, they say yes, but there's always some excuse. You're like, hey, do you want your marriage to get your marriage to get better? Yeah, right. Yes, but my spouse this. Or okay, what if your spouse shows up? Yes, but then we don't have it. They're like they always have an excuse. And the point is this, that if you have an encounter with Jesus, he is the creator of the entire universe. He can use you regardless of what your excuses are, and he looks right past those and he heals you. And that's what happens for this man. He ends up getting healed. So the last thing we talked about this weekend was the best thing that we can do to infuse hope into our lives is to believe that faith is greater than fear. Well, talk about that a little bit, Scott.
Well, I mean, the faith is greater than fear. If you get paralyzed by fear, you will never experience what's on the other side. So let me give you a story. About 4 years ago, we felt a need to transition from churches, just based on, God was calling us to do something more, And so we took this position in Washington. And as soon as we took this position in Washington, I was hit with fear like you can't believe. It was just overwhelming. There were no friends up there. We didn't know anybody. And so we're leaving our culture. And I mean, I think I was just oppressed with fear. And there was a moment when I was ready to bail. I was like, tell Kelly, man, we can't do this. My friends are here. My kids grew up here. Yeah. We got to leave this area. And so I was ready to bail. And Kelly just looked at me. She says, we can do that. She says, but you know what? You will never know. You will never know what God has for you on the other side if you don't take this step. And so with a lot of fear and a lot of trepidation, I stayed the course with the power of God, and he ended up doing some things in my life that I would have never experienced had I not took a step. So I guess what I'm trying to say in this story is that faith does not come without fear.
That's right.
That's so good.
It doesn't come without fear. You just got to take the step, and you got to move through the fear with the faith to find what God has for you on the other side.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. There was a phrase that I heard when I was a kid. There was like somebody who ran the Olympics or something that gave a motivational speech. And their line was this. They were like, whatever it is, do it afraid. And I think that's the key. Like, the fear was still there, but in faith, you went ahead and you did it anyway. And that's true for all of us. There are things that you're going to have to do that you'll be fearful of, but just do it afraid and trust that God will give you the courage you need along the way.
Something that really sobered me up and it really, even today, has kept me so strong in my walk is it's a fear factor of God is God and God is amazing. But I think it's healthy to have a certain fear of God. And I consider it, we're all going to see him, hopefully, face to face one day, if your faith is there. He's going to ask us two questions. He's going to ask me, he's going to go, Jason, did you know me? And what did you do to make me known? What did you do, man? What did you do? I don't think he's going to be satisfied without fully being able to answer both those questions. So it's one thing to be able to know God and go after God and be hungry for him, and not just raise your hand and go, yeah, I accept Jesus, I'm cool, I'm saved forever. But he wants you to hunger after him. But on top of that, go out and make disciples of all nations and baptize in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Go out and make disciples. And so that keeps me in check every day. Right now, every day it keeps me motivated. And even to the point of, you talk about fear, when I was in the corporate world and I came to Christ and I had all my posse, all my dudes, and I love them all. If you're listening, man, I love you boys. But I'll never forget the day of me triggering that fear factor of going, you got to make me known, son. And I could hear God saying, you're doing great, Jason. You're turning your ways. You stop hanging out with these friends over here. You're making these changes. You're coming to church every weekend. You're serving. But you got to show me. Show me. So I'm literally at a bar in San Diego, right on the beach. And I'm sitting there with my mentor, who is my friend, who gave me the opportunity that I had all these years in corporate success. And I had so much fear. And he looked at me, and we were sitting there at the bar top, and he goes, Jay, there's something you're not telling me. You're just different. There's a piece about you and all this stuff, and there's different. And I knew, and I was like, oh, dude, this is it. This is my checkpoint. I'm going, I know God is nudging me right now to say, I need to tell him. I need to be honest. I need to be transparent in this moment. I was so fearful that my friend was going to judge me, who was my mentor, was just going to shut me out and go, dude, you're a Jesus freak. We're out. We're done with this. So he looked at me, and with everything I could, I tried to lie to him, and I couldn't. I just said, let me tell you, bro, it's God. And he just went, oh, gosh. I was like, oh, no.
I thought you were going to say he got saved.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But we sit there, and I knew, and I had all this fear, and I'll make a long story short here.
Too late.
So he's in the bar with me, and then he walks away, takes a phone call, and in that moment, I just wanted to puke. I was like, oh my gosh, God, I know you're with me right now, but I think I've just blown everything. And I walked outside literally to get some fresh air on the beach, and because I thought I was going to throw up. I was in the bushes. And then this lady came up to me and said, will you take a picture of us? I'm like, are you kidding me right now? So I took a picture, and then I hear this voice, and this guy taps me on the shoulder and goes, hey, Jason, or it goes, hey, I'll take that picture for you. And I turned around, and it was Ray Johnston.
Wow.
And I just got done telling my friend about the story about why this is about God. There's amazing people. This guy named Ray Johnson. You should meet this guy. Anyway, in that exact moment that I crossed the line, within 30 seconds, God just went, "I'm right here, man. I'm right here, son." And it was a powerful moment for me to go, okay, this was no quinky dink. This is something. God is real and on the move. And anyway, so it's.
And now you've been doing the work of the Lord ever since.
Ever since.
Yeah, man. And so this is the bottom line, that God has a direction for our lives and something he wants to do with our lives. And at the end of the day, are you going to be fearful? Yeah. Are you going to trust him and do it afraid? I guarantee you that the plan that God has for you is better than the plan you have for you. Yeah. So if you're feeling stuck, figure out that plan, get on board with God, and make it happen.
Can I just add this one little comment? Fear, what makes fear afraid is the first step you take. That's what makes it afraid. That makes me want to run. That first step you take, fear starts to subside because you're starting to move.
Yeah. So if you're out there today, make it happen. Move. Don't be scared. Thank y'all for watching The Flip Side. We'll be back next time. Kurt Harlow will be here in my place. Look forward to seeing y'all again. Thank you.